all of you are having a really good holiday. I love to channel this thing. I want you to really load up the question and answer section. For those of you who don't know where that is, that's right up underneath my head here. You'll see a little folder that says Q&A, kind of right there centered in the middle of the page, up underneath my face. Please keep in mind that as the webinar proceeds and as the channeling goes forward, we do end up getting hundreds of people watching, and it is hard to answer all the questions. It's not I who personally selects them. It's the beings that I'm channeling who selects them. So there's no, modus operandi with that. It's whoever Yeshua tells me, to pick, whatever questions are most relevant for the collective that's watching is what he will choose. I also need to forewarn you that before these channelings and sometimes during these channelings, I do get a little bit emotional because he's from my specific soul family. And every time I speak to him, I'm reminded of that. And he kind of reminds me of my father. My father was also really particularly close, to him. And, I was raised in a background that was religious, but there was like a deeper spiritual context for me personally. So when other people were worshiping Jesus, for me, Jesus was right in front of me. And he was telling me, okay, maybe not so much with this doctrine, but follow your heart. And he was teaching me all of these things since age 5. So for me, it's very personal. He's been a guide for a long, long time. With that being stated, he does have a unique message for this Easter. I am going to go ahead and take a moment to gather myself and then just tell you what the message is, and then we'll go ahead and delve deeply into your questions in the questions and answers section. He says, "It is as Yeshua that I came to you and then returned to the presence of all of the beloved ones of planet Earth at that time. Now, whether or not you still hold on to the belief that my body died upon a cross, at this point it makes no difference. I used the same technique utilized during the initiations of the ancient Egyptians. This knowledge came from many races of light beings who took form in the raw soul group and embodied in order to teach us how to transcend the human body and brain. This may have appeared to you that I had passed from the physical realm, but this is not my truth. My organs, especially heart and brain, were in a deep state of meditative rest. My breath was slow to the point that no one could notice I took breath at all. My heart beat even slower. I awakened when I knew that I could stand in quickened form and left the tomb. This is the year of one, a beginning. It's evident that a resurrection for all beings could come into the Christ who choose to return to the light of love will remember their divinity soon. This divine remembrance returns to you and returns you into the consciousness of that which you already know in your higher selves. But because of the veil and the missions that you have carried out, your memories have been dimmed until now. Now is the time for you to rise into your function within the higher realms. Now is the time to honor the call for service to humanity. Many of you feel consumed with feelings of loss of direction or loss of life purpose. Your purpose can only be found when you serve humanity. And within this service, you will remember love, compassion, unity, and grace. Within this service, you will return to your bliss consciousness. You will forget the egoic personality and will connect with your I am. I come to thank those of you who already stand in service to Christ consciousness. I'm honored with all of my being that you're here together to share in this great love we are. I am joyful when I look out upon your timelines and see the great peace that we are co-creating in the hearts of all who choose to lift into love together. And most of all, I am love with each and every one of you. Let yourselves open to feel this great love we are. Connect with it and enter into what I call the true communion of love. I would also mention that Easter is remembered as a time of peace, when peace is now most appropriate, for the lion has lain down with the lamb. when the world pauses for a moment to focus upon love and peace, true unity, which can only come from love and all that love creates. So bring it in, this great love light. Bring it in as I teach it, or as you have learned from any master, or discern how to do it for yourselves. We join with you in every moment as you move along your paths to your quickening. Today is the day to resurrect your true divine nature. Resurrect your truth. Your fifth dimensional self is infinitely already integrated and whole. You are divine perfection. There is nothing to heal. Reconnect to the innocence of your nature, of your truth, that your inner child self always knew. This innocence of truth that your inner child knows is slowly being revealed through your increasingly intimate relationship with your fifth dimensional self. And today I ask you, what is your divine truth? You may always connect to your higher self with your multidimensional mind and apply truth from this mind into your daily life when you act from the guidance of your heart center. Your truth is not right or wrong, good or bad. It just is. Your truth is the totality of all you have learned within your many incarnations, as well as all that you have held within your heart center. I would also share with you today that spiritual awakening is a discipline, a practice. If you begin by knowing how to ask your higher self truth in what you really desire, this is half of that practice. This is the best thing that you can do and is done in quiet daily meditation. There is nothing more important than this. Remember, your higher self is always with you, for your higher self is you. The answer will come in your own voices, through your own filters and nature, through your physical, yes, for you are source and expression. So why seek outside of yourself? I come today to replenish and restore your connection to you. Easter is a time of restoration within your true divinity. And you are also yourself in the higher dimensions of reality. Blessings to you, beloved ones, and may the peace that passes all understanding come even more into your presence and remain with you as you follow your paths in love and grace. Okay. Let's move forward to your questions. I'm still trying not to cry. I do it every time. This time it's going to happen that I don't cry in one channeling of him. Okay, I'm just going to look straight. I'm switching between your live questions and the event page questions for people who can't make it today. How can people reach you for your help is the first question. He states, with the inner knowledge that I am you. Get specific in knowing how to ask from your heart center. Do not hold shame in your heart center. The release of shame from your heart center is operative in true united connection to me, for I am you. Not gonna cry. Okay. Next question, is the Bible truth or myth? Literal interpretations of the Bible justify slavery, anti-Semitism, war, revenge, and the subjugation of women, the denial of rights to gays and lesbians. Can a book responsible for these things be, in any literal sense, my word? I urge you to look more deeply at the metaphors within the Bible, particularly in the book of Revelation. These words can be interpreted as metaphors for a more deeper truth. For example, the 7 churches represent the 7 spiritual centers within your bodies. The 7 lamps of fire. You said fire, okay. I was going to say time. He says it's the same. Different words, same meaning. Okay. People call it different things, but it's the same. The 7 lamps of fire represent the helpful influences that block hindrances to your spiritual awakening process. The 4 beasts represent the four physical natures, desires, which you must overcome when you are embodied here on this planet. The mark of the beast, it represents our ego. The mark represents the vows we have made to the work of our ego here on earth. The beast represents the ego. The Bible in its original form from my family in Mount Nazareth, Essenes, had much value. However, it was not called the Bible at that time. Okay, next question. How did you travel to India and Tibet, and when did you go alone? How was your life there? He states, I traveled with a group of my brethren, the Essenes, from Mount Nazareth. I traveled in quickened form after what you have defined a resurrection, around age 30. That's all. I believe that answered the question. How was your life there? Okay, that's the other. He says it was a life of discipline, solitude, and then reconnection, then more meditative practice, and then reconnection. Buddhists in this time seem to believe that solitude was the truest unification of all quickening and the path to enlightenment. And while it is true initially, it cannot be true fully, as that would imply duality. Enlightenment does not implicitly state that duality is present. It does assume the opposite. There is a disciplined nature to the Buddhist practice and way. However, one must attach to their nature before they could detach. I enjoyed much solitude, and I enjoyed much connection to my spiritual family there. Okay, next question. Oh, you're hearing the voice talking with me? Let me know and I'll adjust my microphone because sometimes he blows out my microphone, but sometimes it just sounds like a man's voice talking at the same time. That's what you're hearing probably. Yeah, okay. For people who are strongly connected, that is how you will hear me when I channel him. That's just natural. It's not a microphone problem. Let's move on to your next question from the event page. And this is a good one, being that the title of this channeling is Truth and Myth of Christianity. And the question is Christianity a myth? And he states, let's begin by examining the words truth and the word myth. No one religion or belief on earth is full divine truth. And he capitalizes the T in that, in truth. Any belief on earth is subjective and relative. The word myth simply means a story. A story is not true or false on earth. It is simply a belief conjured in one's mind, a creation of a personal belief. Constantine created Christianity as a means of political control. Christianity took older myths and legends, historicized to suit the Roman Catholic Church while combining the numerous religions existing at the time: Krishna, Horus, Mithraism, Osirian, Isis, and many other mystery religions. Thank you. Let's move on to a live question. How do we teach our kids about spirituality? He states, from the mouth of all children comes divine truth. It is you who is being taught. I love that answer. He told me that when I asked about my children too. Next question from the event page. What sacred texts do you recommend? I'm going to have to try to pronounce this because I'm seeing it as opposed to hearing it from him. And when I see it, I'm just going to spell what I see. But it could be pronounced the Rig Veda, R-I-G, separate word, V-E-D-A. Also the Nag Hammadi, and of course the miracles. Next question. This is about ascension. Is it more beneficial at this point in my ascension to focus on teaching, such as those from Matt Kahn, which are more fifth dimensional for healing? Or is it necessary to do specific teachings and try to analyze the cause and root of? Okay, guys, when you ask questions, there's only a specific character limit, so I cannot see the rest of your question. But I'm assuming that you're saying, is it necessary to do specific clearings, like energy clearings, and try to analyze the cause and root of your problems or emotional blocks? He said, if you believe that you must formulate a modality, if you believe that you require a specific teaching for your healing, this creation will become true for your body and mind. If you believe in the nature of the miracle, then you believe enough for this to become true in your body and in your mind. Fifth dimensional teachings are highly appropriate at this time because they focus on the state of the natural miracle, and you are that miracle. It is beneficial at this point to release teachings that involve duality and to understand that you are perfect and whole, and to say to yourself daily, I am. Okay, let's look at another event page question. Did Yeshua use Reiki as a healing technique? Reiki is an ancient healing technique taught to me in Tibet around age 30, and I used it frequently. However, this is a human definition for an even more ancient modality, and it simply is based upon belief of the miracle. You can do so as well. Someone is asking, is there a mantra or particular sound used to help connect with Yeshua? There are plenty. There are so many based upon the variations of the soul groups. He has shown to me many times that the use of the Om in any format, particularly Om Shanti and Hariam, as well as Hu, H-U, those are sounds that come in through the raw soul group, in the beginning stages of his time on earth. And that's why it connects to the divine masculine and the divine feminine in the Christ conscious soul groups. Okay, let's take another question from the event page. Why do so many spiritualists, healers, empaths, and intuitives suffer in their physical bodies with ailments and illnesses? What is the best method for physical healing? Mind work, body work, prayer, faith? He said, methods will be unique and specific based upon your belief system. Could you consider that you are already whole, that the nature of suffering is a choice? When you release the notions that you are imperfect, then healing naturally occurs. It can occur quickly. It can take considerable amounts of time, and this is dependent upon your belief systems. Okay, about the first part of the question, let's go back to that. You asked, why do so many spiritualist healers and empaths suffer in their physical bodies? He states, this is all about the wounds of the third dimensional plane, giving way to balance and movement to the higher levels of consciousness. This is about letting go of the ties that bind you to the emotions of the physical realms and the rebirth of your soul's consciousness in higher light, higher frequency of thought and understanding. But how can you become healers if you do not experience wounds? It would seem that most healers have experienced great pain and suffering and are here to help others release their pain and create balance. The wounds of many lifetimes need to heal, and this is the spiritual pulse of the world grid. When the wounded healer is healed, then they are shown the truth behind the illusion of reality. When you transcend the word wounded, you lead yourselves to the path of your higher calling in truth. Okay, let's take another live question. Give me just a second. Giggling at his answer a little bit. The question is, what does Yeshua say about cursing using his name? And he said, it's quite funny. Would you curse in your own name? We are the same. Would you curse yourself? It can be a negative implication. It can be a release of stressful emotions. It is quite funny. I honestly didn't expect that answer, so I'm laughing a little bit. I think that sometimes when we take ourselves so seriously, it disconnects us a little bit from joy and bliss consciousness, and to assume that there's this great and mighty God sitting in a land far up in the sky somewhere that will smite us. And this is my opinion, not his, me as the channel in my human form. That notion is taken a bit seriously. He's nodding and laughing with me. He does have an interesting sense of humor. That's something that people don't expect. So when he's not making me cry, I'm definitely laughing. Let's look at another one of your questions from the event page. What is your strongest advice for us this Easter? Please learn the truth of impermanence and find your composure within it. This is the true path to your quickening and ascension. Let's take another live question. I'm running through them very quickly because I'm seeing them build up and we already have 100. Are we not supposed to pray to Yeshua? And can he comment about my back pain? Is it true the reason behind the pain is because I have implants? He said, the nature that something can be, the notion that something can be outside of your own nature is non-reality. You have created non-reality in form. And this has become something that you have perceived as detrimental. And then this can become quite true, relatively speaking. I'm going to stop him because I need to ask a question. So are you saying that implants in that mindset would then actually become bad? He doesn't like the word bad. He said, then you can perceive them as harmful. And then it will be so for you. It would be truth at that point from the relative perspective. Regarding prayer, it is as simple as meditation, but is it truth for you? Are you praying in a seeking manner? Or are you praying knowing what is and knowing your divine nature? Are you praying in gratitude and thanks? Or are you praying in supplementation? For if you pray in supplementation, this means that you perceive lack within your nature. And this is not natural or whole or healthy for your consciousness, either in form or in your light body. Thank you. Let's take another question from the event page here. When Yeshua or Jesus returns to earth, if he hasn't already, he pointed when you said that and nodded, he's here already. Okay. Will he return in his original soul form or in fractals, or both? And what would be the purpose of returning to earth in fractals if that is the case? I need to explain to you what I believe that this the questioner means in this case. And she can correct me if she's here in chat if I'm wrong about my interpretation of the question, but in some of his teachings as channeled through me, what he has taught me is that we come in soul streams. So if my hand is a stream of consciousness and there are trillions or more, undefinable numbers, not human or relative to any number. So it's all here, in fractals, just like blood cells flowing through my arm here. If my hand is the body, then my fingers are fractals of divinity. So when Source tends to project into a human and create a contract, and we come, Source projects through, all that is a massive soul family. The Christ consciousness is a massive soul family here within this arm, all of the blood cells, and this is me. This is Pamela the human. So this fractal could be from one existence, say the Pleiades. This could be my human form. This could be somewhere in a planet that we don't even know about because there's not human relevance. This could be an animal. Some people don't believe that, by the way, but he has expressed that to me, that does happen as well. And these fractals of our divinity within this form, it doesn't matter what or how or who, it is a fractal of his consciousness. So say within the Christ consciousness, all the beings here in the Christ consciousness that would represent my arm here, all the blood cells flowing through, come into the body, except here's a fractal, here's a fractal, here's a fractal. And that is why we have a perceived notion of separation. We're trying to identify with all of these fractals of our divinity because we're so multidimensional in nature. So this is what he has told me, that yes, he is coming through many fractals. I have met, not many, but I have met a few, less than I can count on this hand, of beings that come in with a strong Yeshua fractal. But on a deeper level, he is within each of us. Many of us watching are part of the Christ consciousness, and most people on earth have some degree of Christ consciousness. His direct answer to your question is, I have returned and I always will. I am within all of you. The reason I return into many beings is to show that there is no one guru or master. I am. Thank you. Let's take a live question. Okay, we already answered the prayer one. Give me a second. He's choosing one. Okay, this is another question in regards to the wounded healer issue, or what we perceive there as. The question is, I have a lot of physical problems. I've had several surgeries, but I suffer deep pain. I hear the word in my subconscious, let go, but I don't know what it means. He states, I choose to answer your question because of your path of surrender. And this was my path as well when I walked in my conscious state as Yeshua ben Joseph. The path of surrender simply means trust. And in the state of suffering, forgive yourself if you feel that you falter, if you feel that you hurt, if you feel that you suffer. It is not a weak nature. It takes a strong nature to suffer, and to perceive that it will end requires an even stronger nature. Let go simply means trust. Trust that it is perfect, if it is ceaseless even. If it never stops, this is still the perfection and the projection of Source within you. You are still perfect. You are still blessed. When I asked him, when I first began to ask questions, it was probably around age 8, when I was baptized into a Baptist fundamental, Christian church. And I began to ask him all these questions, and I believe that I did so, just to please my grandparents at the time when I was baptized. But I asked him a question, what does it mean, to surrender? What does that mean when I say I am saved? And he said, there's no requirement for salvation. You're already whole. And And that was the beginning of many, many discussions that we had about salvation and surrender. And I asked him, was it true about dying for our sins? And he said, there is no such nature as sin as a negative force in your consciousness and on your planet. The word sin, in your definition, simply means to miss the mark. If that is the case, the nature of humanity is to miss the mark and to find it again, and to miss the mark and to find it again. Does this imply that you require salvation? No. You are already whole. And then the reason why I'm sharing that is because we then began to go forth into discussions about the crucifixion. And I asked him the truth of that. And I specifically asked him because I remember, hearing something in church one Sunday where the pastor was talking about how he cried out to his father. And he said, something like, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? And I asked him, I said, did you say that and why? And this is one of your questions on the event page today. And he really wanted me to address it because this is what he told me around age 8. He said, it is the nature of surrender to question your divinity, to question if suffering exists, and to accept if it never ends. If you are here to suffer endlessly, to accept that as well. And then to trust that no matter what your body attempts to create within your mind state, to not succumb to fear. Surrender simply means to trust your path, to flow within the acceptance that grace occurs within all states of consciousness, even if you feel you will die, because death does not truly exist. Therefore, when I made this call, I was in my egoic mind nature, and I was fearful, and it was a part of my path to release this in my human nature. And as soon as I did, I began my quickening. Okay, I'm going to take another live question. Okay, I was wondering what I could do for people who have negative connotations surrounding you because of the church and its past and present dogma and problems. How can I get them to know who you really are? He states, and the phrase, love them for they know not what they do, would apply in any application when you feel condemnation, judgment, dogma, when you understand duality. Speaking to this level of indoctrination will not release the prison in their minds. It simply is. And when they are ready to release it, then they shall. You cannot get them to know who I truly am until they know who they truly are. And in the higher context, they will release fear, which means they will release judgment and dogma, and all will come into place as it is. Let's take another question from your event page. Will the Ark of the Covenant ever be found? And he states, the physical form of the Ark was destroyed in Babylon. The Ark's nature is light, not form. So this means it cannot ever be found or destroyed. It's a little confusing. I think he means there was a form in the third dimension, and that obviously was destroyed, but it can't, the true nature, the light of it cannot be destroyed. So how could it be found? That's what I'm getting out of that answer. Okay. Did Yeshua actually experience the temptations of the devil that is depicted in the Bible? He states that is a metaphor for the egoic mind and its connotation and definition of sin, definitions of good and evil. Let's review your definitions of the word Satan. Satan is not a being. Satan is a role to be played in your egoic mind. Satan is ego. There is a being that plays that role, and this being has been different in many human conscious collectives, but in this state, that being is Lucifer. Consider the nature and meaning of the name Lucifer. He's showing me a morning glory. I'm seeing a picture in my mind of a morning glory, and I'm seeing light come into the flower. Lucifer is a being of light, he states, who sits at the right throne of God. With this in mind, Lucifer is an angel. Lucifer plays a role in your minds for you to perceive something is good or bad, or you're going to fall into a temptation. The temptation is not partaking in something good or bad. The temptation is to succumb that duality even exists. The temptation is to succumb to the meaning that there could be a good or a bad, that there could be a right or a wrong. That is all non-reality. That is all your dream. That is all your creation. I didn't answer your question. I'm going to ask him again. He said, in my human form, it was easy. I made many mistakes, or what you would perceive as a mistake. Of course, everyone succumbs to egoic temptation. Otherwise, how would you formulate expansion? How would you grow? You are here for that expansion. Okay, let's move into another. Okay, this is a question from the event page, and it is, how can I transform myself to be more like Yeshua? He states, can you see yourself as perfection? Can you love yourself within the light of your nature? Can you release all notions of duality? Can you release your desire to need things and people? Can you release addictions, attachments, expectations? Then you shall become Christ. Okay, next question. We have 132. I'm trying, I'm getting there. Was Muhammad truly the last prophet? He states there will always be prophets into infinity, and there will never be a finish. Next question. How much of the biblical story of your life is true? He states, in metaphorical form, there are some truths. If you follow your heart's center, truth is relative to whoever shall read these books and scriptures. In literal interpretations, there unfortunately isn't much truth. Why does Christianity say that we must go to church? He wants to answer that one. He states, it is true to the human condition that one must separate in order to perceive ethics and goodness, that one must be saved. You have been taught in your society that there is an innate badness to you, and that church can release or cleanse or save. This is the nature of the dogma in all religions on this planet, with the exception of a few. If there is a dogma, if there is a this or that, this could not be divine truth. But this is the nature of the culture and humanity at this time. Next question, has your consciousness entered into me? He states, if it has and if it shall, only you would know. How do we learn who is in our soul family? He states, it is a feeling. It is a feeling state within your true divine nature. From within the wellspring of your heart centers comes this feeling. Trust it. You will know instantaneously. When you question your knowing, you step into ego. The truth occurs initially and first and foremost within your hearts. Do not stray from it. Next question, give me a second. Did you really visit the many sacred sites across Egypt during your incarnation as Jesus? He says yes. He states it required a technique that you know as bilocation. Just picking another question from your question and answer section. Give me a moment. I believe I'm a healer, although I've never had official training. He's making a joke. He took a purple pen with the word H on it, and he placed it on my chest, and he said, and now this makes you a healer. And he laughed a little bit, and he said, or does it? And then he pointed to my chest, and he said, or does this? I'm sure you understand that. Let's move on. Do you think learning a specific art is necessary, or can one simply heal through one's Christ self? He held up his finger and then his hand. This is a symbol that he uses a lot when he talks to me. When he comes to me, there's a Christ consciousness symbol that comes through the Ashtar command that I recognize when I see this. That is a transference of energy that you use to connect in unity. And he is reminding you to stand in your unity and to connect through others and to release all notions of duality when you heal others. So when you hold up the hand during your healing, you begin to pull in energy and a unification of self by seeing the Christ in another being who stands in your presence. And that transference occurs naturally through the use of your hands. He won't even let me finish the question. He just jumps in. So I'm going to finish it now. So do you think learning a specific art is necessary, or can one simply heal through one's Christ self through the transference of energy, even in one's mind, by way of visualization of green healing light and chanting specific healing mantras, and even without that person actually knowing? He has to stop me again, because there are thousands of questions within this statement and within this whole series. He says, and the operative words in your question are without one's knowing. You can heal without one's conscious knowing, but on the soul level, they will give you permission most of the time. In a few instances, you will feel nothing. You will feel a shield come down over your presence. And when you feel this, the sign is stop. That person isn't ready to receive your healing or anyone's at that time. And in this case, why would you take the lesson? Even if you perceive that it involves suffering, why would you remove their lesson, their opportunity for karmic expansion? Keep in mind that people choose different diseases, conditions, maladies, if you will, for that is what ye has called the nature, for the purposes of expansion. And they sometimes are not ready to release these perceived maladies. You can use green in an effort to restore and rejuvenate. You can use violet in an effort to enlighten and quicken. You can even use red in an effort to ground, but keep in mind for the energetic being, this could stimulate. There are many colors and mantras and many techniques that you can use, and that is within your personal choice. You will know based upon the guidance of your own heart center, the nature of the being with whom you work. Another question, how does one become a channel for Christ conscious healing energy? He said, release your attachments, addictions, obsessions, and expectations. The Christ simply is. There is no personality that controls. no egoic nature. The Christ energy is service. Can this be achieved by simply believing it is so? The questioner persists. And he states, if your belief is that powerful, then yes. But if your addictions, attachments, and expectations are just as powerful, you will resume your human nature just as easily. Okay, I think he answered this before, and then she said, lastly, must I heal myself before I can heal others? He states, I return the knowledge to you with a question. Can you heal a wound without experiencing the wound? There must be a reference point for what you heal. This is the nature of earth. Let's take another live question. We have about 10 minutes, and I'm trying to get through them as quickly as possible. What does it feel like to be in the Christ consciousness? He states, it's trust, it's grace. It simply is. It's love. When you release all needs, that is complete trust. This is the Christ consciousness. This is a hard question. It is due to bad luck and bad karmas. I have suffered a lot, and I'm continuing to suffer. God has helped me a lot. I've been advised to keep chanting God's name to get rid of bad karmas, which I am doing continuously. When will my bad karmas end? And when will I begin to enjoy and live a happy life? He said, the moment, and it matters not when this moment arises, if you have chanted the name of God for centuries through your various lifetimes, if you chant the name of God once, and then you believe that suffering does not and cannot exist, then suffering will no longer be in your reality. In that exact moment, your miracle will occur. Okay. How can we get along with family members and coworkers who treat us differently because we are not a part of evangelical Christianity? He states, again, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgiveness, compassion, and then grace will arise from forgiveness and compassion. When you perceive to take upon another person's definition of your nature, this is shame. Release your beliefs of shame. He said, do not take upon accountability and personal responsibility of other people's notions and definitions of who you are. Who you are simply is. You are grace. You are perfection. You are divinity. Look deeper. Are you considering yourself different from them? You are also the same. You cannot be judged if judgment does not permeate your nature. And he does like this, he's showing me like a boomerang effect. And he says, when people judge you, it feels like that boomerang that hits you right here in the heart. And I felt like a thump in my heart. It hurt a little bit, but then it went back and it thumped the other person even harder. And he said that this reciprocal effect, this boomerang effect of judgment and criticism continues and strengthens. If you perceive that you've been judged, the boomerang will hit you more harshly. And then when it comes back to the person who judged, it will hit them more harshly. And then it comes back in your direction, and you see how this goes. This is like empathic ping pong. That's something that, he used to explain to me when I was a child, when he was explaining to me what empathy is. I always wanted to release other children's suffering. When I was a child, I was giving away my things. I worked super hard for things because we didn't have a lot of money, and I had this vast collection of dolls, right? Cabbage Patch dolls, and they were not cheap. For those of you who follow me in that time frame, $30 at that point in time was a big deal, for our poor family. So if I got, A's and B's, if I got honor roll, I would get one every time. So I had about, I want to say 15 total at one point in time. You can ask my mom. And it didn't matter because as soon as I would get one, someone else needed it more. And I knew that there would be an energy of empathy that would be given through that. So the reason why I'm sharing that with you is because if I was in service, if I was in compassion with that service and giving, then it didn't matter to me who judged. But during times when I was scared and perceiving lack and not in service and not giving, then I felt extremely ostracized by friends and picked on and bullied and things of that nature. And I remember the difference between what state I was in at any given point in time. Let's take another question. I'm going through because some of these questions are really personal and they'd probably be best answered in a personal one-on-one session. Or maybe you can shoot them over on the event page and I'll get to them afterwards. Either way, do what I can. But he's looking for more of group collective questions, by the way, that everyone can get something from. So I'm just scrolling through just a moment. Were the 10 Commandments presented the same like we see them in the Bible? He's shaking his head. And what to follow exactly in the Bible and what not? Thank you. He says, and thank you. Would you follow anything that uses the word commandment if you are not the person in command? You are source. You get to command, believe, and create your own reality. Those commandments were written by the Roman Catholic Church, not by myself. What to follow exactly in the Bible and not, he said, and from your heart, remembering that most knowledge that can be ascertained from these texts are metaphors, follow your heart first, within your heart center and the wellspring. Are you the Son of God? He said, yes, there are many sons of God, as are you. Did you appear before Paul in Damascus? Yes, and before many of my disciples. Did he get some or all of your message right? He did, but the church did not. No, that's a shame. Okay. Okay, just scrolling through. Give me just a second. He's trying to pick up another question. Oh. She states, I find myself very triggered by many holidays now, especially Easter. Everywhere I turn, I read, he is risen, or he saved me. The programming within humanity is very bothersome for me, especially when these same people do not live by your teachings. How do you feel about these holidays celebrated in your name? And how can I accept where humanity is by being more compassionate? And he put his hands around your words like this, be more compassionate. And that's all he said. Okay, next. Dear Yeshua, what is your advice on releasing shame around love, which is a lot of what I'm dealing with right now? Self-love as well as love for others, and coming to the divine feminine and masculine that we are, and to come to union. Also in regards to past lives, forgiving is my path at the moment. Your grandmother Anna is aiding here as well. He says, as is Mariana, as is Miriam, as is all of the Magdalene. Within the divine feminine soul groups, there are many beings beginning on earth with Isis and Nut. There are many beings within both the divine feminine and within the divine masculine. You will feel a connection based upon your soul family, your divine nature. And when you remember, when you study, discipline is a study. It is not always an art. You cannot stand in the nature of the divine without a commitment and without study. There are many who are born into natural states of a gifted nature. And even then, coming through a third dimensional environment, duality can cause this nature to disintegrate over time. Within your timelines, it is important to release all notions of duality and to understand that spirituality is a discipline. If you perceive and believe that you are already united, that you are already peaceful, this will be a natural reunion of the Christ, the divine feminine and the divine masculine within you. About releasing shame, this is pervasively more difficult on your planet at this time. Releasing shame means being compassionate to yourselves. Could you practice perceiving yourself? And he points to my heart and he opened it like a door and he showed me an image of me at age 5. And I had a little bowl cut, by the way. And I was ashamed because of something. Little pink shorts outfit. I think only my mother's going to remember this. It's embarrassing. So he says, you talk to that little girl, you perceive her right now as separately from you. He knows I have an issue with self-shame and criticism. So he's using me as an example. Thanks. That's really uncomfortable. And he said, talk to her separately. You know, if you perceive her as separate, it's okay. Talk to her separately, pull her out of the chest, ask her to present herself in front of you and speak to her separately. And just state to her that you are there permanently for her, that you love her permanently, that your love is a gift that cannot be erased. It cannot be taken. Love is your power and nothing can take this. Humans perceive shame when they believe that something can be taken from them. Change your perception and speak to your inner child initially as separately from yourself, and then she will unite with you, and then shame will not exist. Okay, we're going to take a few more and then we're going to be done. Just a second. Many are being called during this time of remembering to the arts, painting and writing. Do these arts co-create new realities either in or on other planes and dimensions and galaxies? He said, and now you are perceiving the truth of creation and why you are here. This is your unique mission. Many of you artists, by the way, get that. Let's take another, just a second. Okay, I keep asking my guides to come to me and to let me know them, but they don't come. He stops before you can even get to your question, and he pointed to you and he said, but you are the guide. Of course you come because you are. He described this to me when I was trying to figure out the many beings that would come in my presence beginning around age 5. And I'm like, and who is this? And who is that? And who is this? And the ones that were dominant guides to me, he said, they're you. And then the ones that were subdominant, he said, but they're you too. And initially it was really confusing. So I said, okay, dominant guides, subdominant guides. Okay, I get that. Subdominant is Jesus. I'm obviously not Jesus, right? And he said, oh, but you are. And it took a while, but I began to understand his teachings that from the higher self level, our divinity, that is our guide. Our higher selves are our guides. And then we have the subdominant guides like guardian angels, ascended masters, things of that nature, but they are a fractal of our divinity and we of they. So we're still in that same soul group. They're fractals of our nature. So go deeper. Don't try to go towards something that you perceive as separate from you. It's a hard thing to do, because I perceive my father, for instance, who passed, I think I was 29 when he left. And I would perceive him as separate, and I couldn't get him for years. And it didn't help that I told him not to come because I would miss him so much and cry. But with that being stated, it was harder because I was perceiving him as this person who was separate of me. And now that I perceive him differently, I talk to him every day. So it's just a matter of understanding that guides are you, your higher self nature. Those are your dominant guides. Okay, so understand that, and that'll help. Let's take another question. Who built the pyramids? He states many soul groups that were not in human form, Arcturian in nature. Well, okay. Let's take one more and then we're going to wrap up. She's stating, I understand now that it's not my responsibility to change others' beliefs, but I still want to talk about my experiences sometimes, and then it seems mostly like a confrontation. Please comment. He states, if you are fearful that it will be a confrontation, then you have not released your belief that you will be shamed and that you are not worthy. Release your vocabulary. Could you eliminate the words deserve and worth completely from your vocabulary? And he did like this. Just wipe it clean. That those words do not exist. You do not know what they mean. Why? Because you are beyond this. To deserve something, to be worthy of something, means that you initially were not. And of course, that's not true, because grace implies that you always are. So let's release that, and then that will help, he states. If you still want to talk about your experiences, then by all means do. And if other people judge, do not own or adopt their definitions and judgments. These are their perceptions, not yours. Okay, he's still telling me I need to take one more. Apparently I didn't get to something. Hang on just a second. Aha, that's why. Okay, here we go. This will be the last one. Okay, who created the universe? How long was the process? Was creation executed in stages and intervals? Or was the process fluid in terms of time? How old is the whole creation? Was Adam and Eve a true progenitor of humanity as the literal parents or an allegory? He states, I will answer them in the simplest fashion because this is more simple than it would be complicated. Humanity perceives a complication and a definition that is complicated, but it truly is not. There are many Adams, Eves, Amelias, Lilith. There are many divine masculine and divine feminine forms. Isis, Osiris, when we can continue. But please understand that there is no beginning and there will be no end. There is no process. It simply has always been. And it simply will always be. It simply is. There is no age. This is a perception that time exists, and it does not. Okay, I'm going to end on this. Thank you very much. I really, really enjoyed being here, and I made it through one without crying. I'm so excited. So I love you all. Please come back next Easter. We might do it again on Christmas. Who knows? So keep in touch. If you want to sign up for our newsletter, you can do that by going to aurareader.com. You can join our spiritual community over at Facebook if you like as well. You know, I'm on Instagram, but I don't check it very often. Sorry, guys. And you can also, you know, get in touch with me individually by emailing, you know, if you have any questions. So have a beautiful Easter. Namaste.